Most people think changing a team's behavior is a matter of training in a classroom, PowerPoints, and some books. But they are wrong. It is about transformation. And transformation doesn't happen in a classroom. It happens in a dojo. Today I will show you how we forge elite software teams, the same way I forge elite athletes in my gym. In the last episode you learned about the 1% problem, the talent scarcity that is killing AI adoption. Now I'm going to show you how to build the 1%. Not hire them, not hope for them, but to build them. I spent 25 years studying elite performance, Formula 1 pit crews, Special Force operations, Olympic fighters, and I've discovered something. The same system that transforms a terrified kid into a confident martial artist. The same system that transforms a mediocre developer into an elite performer. How? Behavioral engineering. Discipline, continuous practice, pattern recognition, and it all happens in what we call the Software Craftsmanship Dojo. Here is the structure. First, I will show you the parallel between martial arts training and software craftsmanship. How repetition builds mastery. How positive stress and pressure creates confidence. How the belt system we have inherited from judo makes the progress visible and also predictable, showcasing how individuals and teams, they move toward predictable outcomes. Then I will introduce you to KBIs, Key Behavioral Indicators, the metrics that predict whatever a team will thrive or collapse. Just like a bully in the gym becomes a criminal on the street, certain behavior in code predict if a disaster in production will approach you soon. And most importantly, I will show you how to engineer elite teams, even in an hostile environment. And so, without further ado, let's go! Hello digital warriors, and welcome back to The Forge. Today, in episode 79, we will discuss about how to build the 1%. And so, let's start with the foundation. Why does the dojo work when traditional training fails? Pretty simple. In a classroom, you learn theory. In a workshop, you practice. You practice your skills. You see what happens in front of you. And in a dojo, because of this connection, visio with brain, you start to transform yourself. You start to transform your identity. You don't just learn techniques. You become a different person. I've trained kids who came in terrified, bullied at school, zero self-confidence, people that they came from a family's house with dysfunctional parents. 6 months later, 2 years later, when they become mature, they were completely different. They were speaking differently. They were behaving differently. They have shaped their stakeholders around them differently. They handled conflict differently in their lives. That is not training. This is transformation. And it is what nobody in the software industry wants to admit. I don't know why, but this is what I have observed. The same principles are applicable to developers. You don't fix a mediocre coder with a 2-day agile workshop. You don't fix them with a AWS certification on DevOps. You fix them with deliberate, relentless practice in a system designed to engineer behavioral change. And that is the Software Craftsmanship Dojo, guys. And now you start to understand why we don't teach a framework. We don't teach about agile, extreme programming, the craftsmanship manifesto. We engineer behavioral change, moving a coder to an elite software engineer. And now I will show you exactly how it works. So, let me bring up the map. A map with the 6 core principles that works in the martial arts dojo and in the software craftsmanship as well. In this map, I will try to show you parallels. Parallels that are helping you to understand the principle of behavioral change in a dojo, how they apply on the software craftsmanship dojo, so in your software organization. The first parallel that I want to showcase you is the parallel of repetition or muscle memory. Practice that moves people to have instinct habits, atomic habits, that could be on self-defense or that could be in software. As you see, in judo, you drill a throw thousands of times. I don't even have memory how many times I have done the seonage or the uchimata, that is my signature. At first, you think about every step. Take the grip, entering the position, rotation. It's clunky, it's mechanic, you feel slow. I feel personally like Robocop, and it's not because I have a lot of titanium plates in my bones, but it's not natural. You see that, hey, there is something that is not inside me. I need to force me to do that. But let's talk about 500 repetitions, 5,000 repetitions. Something click? We don't know if it was after 100, 200, 500, or if you have to reach even the 10,000 repetition. But what we know is that something clicks. You have developed through the practice, the technique, the moves, so that your brain is wired to your body. And it becomes instant. It's the same approach that a kid, a baby, does to understand how to walk. Is wiring, biomechanical wiring. And we can do it also for software. How? You practice test-driven development, clean code, refactoring over time, daily. Not once a month, once a year, daily. At first it is slow. At first you feel, hey, how I can write tests before writing my code? It feels annoying. But after 100 of cycles, you cannot write code anymore, avoiding to write tests. Your fingers won't let you writing code without knowing that you have wrote a test. It becomes instant. And that is when you know you have leveled up. When good practice becomes automatic. Now, let me move to the parallel number 2. Fundamentals before Flash. Or clean code before frameworks like Agile or DevOps. So as you see, every kid who joins the dojo wants to learn the flashy stuff. They want to arrive, pull, throw. It's not what you can do. You cannot arrive in a judo dojo and start to say, hey, I want to do kickbox, elbow, knee, and everything like the crazy vale-tudo times. You cannot do that. It's even forbidden because in judo you have only to take the grip and do the throws with a specific code of behavior that is written for the Olympic Games. And indeed, the modern judo is very different from the ancient one. But as you see, people, they come in the dojo and
They want to do the flashy stuff. You remember something? The hype, the AI. I want to do AI. Buddy, hold on. Before flying kicks and spinning throws, I need to tell you, great, first, show me a perfect stance. Show me a proper breathing. Show me how you can fall without breaking your neck. And then after that, I saw your basics, how you behave, how you have the perception of your body, how you handle your biomechanic in the space and time, then we can talk about. And you see, they have it. The grit to do the flashy stuff, but they don't have the practice, the foundation to arrive to do that. But 6 months later, thousands of repetition later, when they are sparring and they don't panic because their fundamentals are rock solid, they will arrive eventually to thank me. Sensei, thank you that you have stopped me to do a mistake, asking to go to the hype to become a martial actors instead of training and practicing from the foundation growing up. And software is identical, guys. If you get a kid out of the university and you provide them with the latest AI tools, it doesn't work. But unfortunately, everyone wants to learn the new framework for front end, the new back end, the new language. They want to learn React or Vue. They want to learn Rust because now it's trendy. They want to ship stuff on Kubernetes. They want everybody to do microservices without knowing the fundamentals, without being able to write clean code. And if you don't understand the solid principle, if you never practice TDD to test the code behavior, not the code implementation, bounding test with implementation, all these flashy frameworks, these flashy words, they will burn your finger immediately. You will regret to have put your code on Kubernetes with microservices if you don't master how to create software properly. And you will regret exactly the day that somebody will call you at 3 a.m. and you will sleepy face, you will say, hello, it's the call center and we have a severity 1 in production and you have to be here in 15 minutes. Then the fun of hype is immediately disappeared. So as you see, master the fundamentals is the must. Without it, you cannot do anything else. Then, let me move to parallel 3. Sparring. Who didn't go to a gym and was looking to have some sparring? You arrive, you put your beautiful judogi, you tie your obi, you put your gloves, and then you feel like Mike Tyson. And the famous saying, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. But sparring is intentionally designed as the place where you learn who you really are. You can drill techniques all day until someone is trying to throw you or beat you or to choke you to a point that you will understand that was real. And I have a lot of students, the first was myself, then when they choked me for the first time, and I was a kiddo, I got nightmares for weeks. In the dojo, sparring is safe. You can do it light, you can push it to more intense. The latest studies, they showcase that the lighter you do it, the better it is for conditioning, because you arrive to a real competition without the many injuries like it was in the past. But anyhow, in a dojo, sparring is designed to be a safe space where you fail, where you get knocked down, where you get ippon on the tatami, and you realize, I shouldn't have done this because that was the counter technique that my uke did and threw me on the ground. And I got a ippon on his side. So as you see, your partner isn't trying to hurt you, to kill you. They are doing something to move your level of mastery to the click after. They are testing you in a safe manner, exposing your weakness, making you better. If you are in a condition to accept failure. Otherwise, we return to the saying from Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until they take a punch in the mouth. And this is the reality. If on the tatami you go with the ego, sooner or later you will find a tough lesson. In software, it's the same. So let me show you. Pair programming and mob programming are social activity to create code in a collaborative way. So we don't have anymore a developer alone behind this keyboard, but we have a bunch of developers, or at least 2 developers in pair, or a whole team potentially in mob, that they are co-creating at the same time code. They're coding under pressure. They're coding under pressure that the other they are observing, that the other are interacting, they are watching. At the beginning, it is uncomfortable. But that is where growth happens. That is where bad habits get exposed and fixed. And if you are not uncomfortable anymore because you put your ego aside and you let the social activity helping you to learn under the guidance of a sensei that is watching, coaching, tutoring, mentoring all the team, you are growing as an athlete doing judo, jiu-jitsu, or as a developer. Exactly in the same way. Now, we've done the first 3 parallels. And for me, there is the 4th one that is very close to my heart, because it's the belt system. Or, in the Software Craftsmanship Dojo, the KBI. And with KBI, I mean key behavioral indicators. So, okay, this is where everything starts to be really intriguing and interesting. In martial art, the belt system isn't just for motivation, isn't for sure a show off, it's a roadmap, it's a diagnostic tool. Each belt represents measurable skills and behaviors, and if you go really deep to a philosophical level, even behavioral identity. A black belt has identity and behaviors that are very different from a white belt. And as you see from the screen, this progression is exactly the progression that is moving a white belt to become a master in martial art. And a white belt, they are learning the basics. A yellow belt can execute some fundamentals with consciousness. At orange-green, they start to become more ready to identify themselves as extreme programmers or crafter or junior software engineers, where test-driven development, clean code, refactor start to become second nature. When they finally move to blue and brown, they start to scale their skills in a way that they become natural mentor and tutors, leading others. And at black belt, finally, the magic happened. They arrived to master all the fundamentals to arrive to have an holistic vision of modern software development. But there is what makes our Software Craftsmanship Dojo different. As you see from the picture, we don't work only on one topic. We work on 4 parallel tracks. And these tracks are designed to be complementary. And this is, as I told you, very close to my heart, because when I was a kid, I started with judo. And then I moved to Yosekan Budo, full contact, low kick. And then I discovered Thai box with Jeet Kune Do. And in Jeet Kune Do, I found a lot of other martial arts, Jun Fan and Wing Chun, Kali Filipino, Pencak And when I was in the US to do some stage, I found studying grappling people that were doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so I went to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with them. And after a catastrophic car accident that I had in my life at the beginning of the 2000s, where they put a lot of titanium plates and screws in my bones, when I restarted to do martial art, train like I was doing before wasn't anymore possible for me. So I stopped to do Vale Tudo and MMA, and I move again to a more traditional way of training, to Jiu-Jitsu. And then, after all these years, what I understood is that my actual Jiu-Jitsu, the Jiu-Jitsu that I am doing with the Spec Ops, is a Jiu-Jitsu that is for real self-defense, tactical combat. It's a Jiu-Jitsu that is based on the fundamentals of the traditional one, but has a lot of contamination with the other martial art that I have done. In software, I brought in the Software Craftsmanship Dojo the same mindset. It's not only about code. It's not only about extreme programming, where you have all the practices to have an agile software development life cycle that is functional, because you put the developers in connection with the customer, they understand which is the product that they want to create, and with the technical practices in extreme programming, the team starting to work with a test-first approach, and they start to create clean code. They start to embrace acceptance-driven development and behavior-driven development as the way how to lead the user to tell us, what do you have in your mind? Which kind of feature, which kind of product you are envisioning? How you see this in the domain? Give us some example. How do you see it, using it? Give us some example about the flow and the user experience that is in your head. And then when you have all these pieces on product side and they know how to create the code in the proper way, the architecture start to emerge. The domain start to showcase the incongruences that different users they are perceiving in how they work. and you put them to a convergence. And so the domain and the new product, they go in a perfect marriage. And the software is designed to fit the domain. And the domain is compatible to the issue that the user is providing you. And so you progress from a white belt of developers that they were jumping on the code, pulling a ticket from Jira, to black belt that are mastering the fundamentals to understand which is the real product that the customer they want. But this, as you see, is not only extreme programming. We have a lot of, and this is the track number 2, of product management. We need to replace the canonical idea of the product owner as the guy that is creating some tickets in Jira or in Azure DevOps with a more holistic person, a person that is capable of communicating with the user, a person that is capable to collect the examples from the user, that is capable with a UX designer and researcher to understand which is the best user experience for the users, for the different personas, to use the Lean UX, the paper prototyping, the event storming to understand the domain. The product owner is not only writing tickets, letting the developers fighting during the refinement section because they don't know how to create the code that will fit this new feature. They need to understand the problem from the domain point of view, being in the shoes of the user that they have the problem and they want to purchase your service or product to solve it. And so, as you see, it's not only technical, there is also a lot of product management in the mixture. But it's not only a matter of creating codes. You need also to ship the code. And so you need also the track of DevOps, where you help developers to understand from continuous build to continuous test, continuous integration, and then continuous deployment, to let them understand with practice and experiments, are you ready for continuous deployment, or is enough to stop in continuous delivery? Are you ready to handle an infrastructure as code, or are you not ready? Are you ready to ship your code on Kubernetes or not? To create a microservice that you will orchestrate with a proper service mesh, with a data replica that follows the data mesh that you need in order to have the domain shaped in a way that the user finds everything in real time. So as you see, it's not only code, it's also the operational part with the modern DevOps. But then this code, this product that we were designing with the user is finally on production. And you remember where I say that sometimes you understand that you were jumping on the hype without the fundamentals when the call center is calling you at 3 a.m. And this is exactly the final and fourth track of the SRE, the Site Reliability Engineer, as by the book of Google released a lot of years ago. It's all about empowering a developer that understood the DevOps practices to go the extra mile, to go on production, understanding the implication with continuous security, the implication of chaos engineering, the implication of switching from logging and monitoring to observability. So predictive outage prevention based on metrics that are showcasing you if the service is slowly degrading to a point that you will get an outage. It's not only shipping code. You need to ensure that this code is working, that is secure, that is reliable, that finally we can put in the bin the ugly terms and conditions that almost all the softwares they have when you purchase them. And who didn't sign up for a service and the first stuff after that they ask you email and password was accept the term and condition. Otherwise, you cannot go ahead. And so, as you see, it's not only about coding. It's a compounding of behaviors that are moving a junior, a developer at white belt, a vanilla developer, to become a black belt. It's a shift. It's a behavioral shift, as you say. And this is where behavioral engineering comes in. We don't just move a vanilla developer to black belt over time, but we have to use all the 2 decades and a half of research that we have done since 2000 to find a recipe that can move a junior developer to black belt in a safe way, in a way that is compatible to work in an industry where you have to perform every day, in a dysfunctional environment that is requiring you with your white belt skills to deliver software in production. And so what we have done is a catalog of almost 150 KPIs, so key behavioral indicators, that are tracking how dysfunctional the individual and the team are in shipping and running software in production. As you see, the analogy with the martial dojo is here. Because in a dojo, I can predict the outcomes of a student by watching their behaviors. When I have new students, I can predict which kind of student is stepping on the tatami, only looking at the posture of the parents. And let's go for a canonical example. You see 2 parents with passive-aggressive behaviors, and you know immediately, okay, which kind of kiddo do we have in the dojo now? If you see that the kid is mirroring the boldness of the parents, you almost probably know that is a kiddo that is toward bullying. Have we a new bully in the gym? Let's find out. That kids probably in the gym will showcase what they have witnessed at home, all the chaos of the 2 dysfunctional parents. And if we don't intervene, they will mirroring their behaviors in the gym with other kids. And this is where the trouble will begin. Because if this kid will do the same to others, most probably somebody will get injured because he's only a white belt. And if does this to other white belts, they will get injured. And so I need to prevent it. I need to stop this even before it can become a reality. This is why I need to watch key indicators, key behaviors in the environment, in the family, in the individuals to understand, okay, how they will most probably behave. Because if they would behave in an unsafe way, how I can warranty the safety of sparring. The same is if a kid comes that is very scared, I look immediately of which kind of behaviors they have, which kind of events makes them scared. Raising the voice, staring with them, touching them, raising an hand to grab their kimono, all indicators that are showing different kind of violence, physically, mentally, and other kinds of abuses. So their behaviors, they're telling me a story. without that I ask them anything. You see, they are kids. And so they don't have that many filters. In software, it's the same. Developers are readable like kids. Do you want an example? Simple. I come in your team and I ask, do we have tests? No. Good. I know that team is drowning in production tickets. High stress, low morale, high disengagement. I know most probably that their code review will be almost zero, or if they had a code review, they will have a knife between the teeth, trying to get out of the meeting with less damage as possible. In that team, most probably, they will work in silos. They will have a blame culture. They will start to do finger pointing. Then I start to ask them, okay, how are you doing? Pair programming. And I start to see immediately how the cooperation flows. Who is the superhero on the pattern? Who is the guy in the corner? How the knowledge is moving across the team. This is behavioral screening on software. And these behavioral indicators are possible to be cataloged in predictive outcomes. So, you don't do tests. Good, your choice. We don't test only with robots. I know that your test will be fragile. I know by design that you will have a lot of tickets. And I start to see if the forecast of this predictable behavior are leading me to observe an outcome in a map, in a sort of heat map that is showing me how much dysfunctional is the way of working in your team. And after I have lit and unlit all the good behavior and the dysfunctional behavior, I can exactly tell you how the team is working now and which kind of problems they are facing. Beyond the inability to deliver, beyond the attrition rate and all the typical management indicators that a lot of companies they have in place. And more importantly, I know where I can move them in 6 months. So I know how to fix it. So, as you see, the KPI is not only measuring things like test coverage, code review participation, how many refactoring you are doing, how much refinement the team is doing, how many deploys you have done in the latest 3 sprints, all these kind of door-oriented indicators. But I go 3 miles ahead. I measure all the patterns on human side for collaboration, internal and external at your team, in your organization and external of your organization with the customer. And I start to map them in a way that I have a safety net to tell you your team have this kind of practices, let's say green belt, for instance, but they lack completely the foundation. And so I know that I need to move them back to the white belt and then moving them for every milestone. White belt, doing the graduation, showing them how the test-driven development, the focus management, and all the foundation at white belt can move them slowly to their green belt, the way of working when I found them on the field, in a way that is safe, in a way that the green belt is really earned. Because they will get, over time, all the exposure, all the practice, all the confidence, all the safe failures in the dojo to work really as a green belt. And in this process, I will move them from white to yellow to orange to green with a graduation test to consolidate their level of upskilling, their confidence, to gamify it with certificates and belt stickers, simulating them in a real dojo, tying up the new belt. And all this is creating real transformation. Real transformation baked by data. Data that can show you the incongruencies that we had on the field at the beginning and what is evolved after 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. So, as you see, if you are a white belt and you are writing your first test, this will be something that you will remember. But then when you are a green belt in a year after we start to assess your organization, and you are doing TDD daily for 1 year, and your code in production start to become finally working without a major reworking, major ticket, major incident, and nobody gets wake up at 3 a.m., everything has a different taste. And when after a period of absorption of this journey, the team will arrive to get the black belt, this team will look like completely different of what they believe at the beginning they were green belt, when in reality they were behaving like white. So then we have a team that is ready to step up in the game. A team that went beyond what the organization was thinking they were doing. A team that is doing it in the proper way. A team that is ready to become the seed of change in any organization. A team that potentially can become a team of coaches, coaching all the other teams in your organization, becoming a team of trainers, not anymore a team of only developers. And that is cultural scale in a safe way. Of course, everybody wants to get it done like this. I want to open the door, McKinsey comes in, Boston Consulting pairs with them, they do a fantastic transformation, and everything works in 3 months. But neuroscience provides us an intriguing aspect. To have an identity change, a behavioral transformation, you need to do 2 steps. First, unlearn the dysfunctional stuff and rewiring your brain with the new one. Second, over time, after that you have rewired a lot of dysfunctionalities with behaviors that are virtuous, good behaviors, you will start to change your identity. It's like a smoker that is quitting smoke. After 1 year that these guys, they are not smoking anymore, they don't tell the others, I am a smoker. Their identity change because they have get rid of the dysfunctional behavior. And the software is the same. So as you see, this is not a game, a gamification of doing judo. It's a system that is a replica of the ancient art of teaching judo that works due to the behavioral science and the neuroscience, the behavioral psychology that I've studied in the last 2 decades. to rewire behaviors and then identity and so culture from an intangible cloud of words that a lot of boards they are talking about, developer experience, culture, AI, DevOps, to something that starts to become observable, tangible, with behavioral indicators that are starting to showcase predictable outcomes before you stomp on a pothole and then you fall on the ground with a severity 1. This is the power of applying the behavioral model and the belt system from judo to the art of teaching software, modern software engineering. And as you see, after the 4th parallel, we arrive to the 5th one. And the 5th one is something that is, in my opinion, the real culture rewiring. It's the relation between the students and the sensei. And this how you rewire a culture in an organization through mentorship, with community of practice, with coaching. In a dojo, the relationship between the sensei and the students is sacred. It's something that is not transactional. The sensei doesn't just teach techniques. They are role model. They showcase behaviors. They are the person that they do the talk, but also they do the walk. I don't have on the wall the 7 principles of Bushido and the tattoo of the Bushido on my skin because I want to do only the talk. I do the walk because, as you see, on top of the 7 principles of Bushido, I have a fantastic picture. And this is the kanji ideogram of the immortal, because after that I survived 41 surgeries, 1 coma, and 2 cancers. Despite all the pieces of titanium plates and screws that I have in my body, I still train in the dojo. I still go and fight on the tatami. And I can live my life on the sofa with a beer, watching the TV like the largest majority of people they do. But I am a sensei. I need to live what I talk. And the students, they are absorbing it by watching, because in neuroscience, as we understood, the frontal cortex here, we have the mirror neuron. And what we watch is going through the eyes, through the mirror neurons, and the mirror neurons are warming up the part of your brain to provide you the readiness to replicate what you have just witnessed. So the kid that is exposed to domestic violence, when they go out, they will replicate domestic violences on the street. The kids that are in the dojo watching a sensei that is walking the walk, they will behave in the proper way. And eventually, in the future, they will become teachers themselves. That's how culture scales. Not through policy, not through modeling, not through HR cost reduction, because we don't want to train people anymore because they can leave the company. Come on. If your people is not nurtured in the proper way, if the leadership, they are not doing the talk and the walk, then you are fucked. Period. In elite software team, the same principle happens. We have senior engineers that they don't just write the code, ship it to production, and who cares, I go home at 5 p.m. because I have the beer ready in the fridge. They show how to create code in the proper way. They do pair programming with the juniors. They be in the dojo as the higher belts to help the lower belt to step up in the game. There is this feeling of camaraderie, the community. Everybody is equal. We don't need gender equity or any label. We are all humans learning the art of software development. And this is how you rewire the culture, how you refactor an organization from within. And over time, these juniors, they will mirror the seniors and will become better because every generation improves. And this is how you build the 1%, not hiring them. You can get rid of all the HR. You want to do AI transformation? Good, get rid of all the HR. This is the first stuff you should do. Because they are not protecting anybody. Like the labor unions, they are not protecting the employees, the HR is not protecting the company. It's nurturing people, it's protecting them, it's letting them grow in your organization when you share the purpose of these people with the purpose of your organization. And of course, we are talking about ethical organizations, where you build them by creating a culture where mastery is the model and mentorship and coaching is not negotiable. And this is the parallel of how a dojo and the Software Craftsmanship Dojo can rewire your software organization. But then I still have one that I kept as sixth because it's something that nowadays everybody is talking about it, but not everybody is practicing it. And is respect, discipline, and confidence. That, on an organization point of view, translate to ownership, mastery, and elite mindset. And here is the transformation arch. In judo, every student starts in the same way. They learn respect. They learn to come in the dojo without the shoes, with the flip-flop, to approach the tatami, leaving the flip-flop from the heels, nodding to the tatami, the sensei, and the class in a respectful way. And from these simple gestures, they know that on the tatami has to govern the silence and the respect. Everybody, the sensei for the first, bow to everybody. It's not about submission. It's about acknowledging that the system will transform me. So I bend the knee and I bow to open myself for the change. To open myself, ear and ear. Because when respect becomes discipline, we have the bedrock to create the hustle. You show up every week. You drill when you don't feel like it, despite having some minor injury. You go there and you do what you can at the maximum you can. You spar with others respectfully, in a safe way, even if you are tired. And over time, that discipline builds your mastery, and your mastery builds your confidence, self-confidence that a lot of people, they don't have anymore. Because they bow only to the social network doing doom scrolling. And in this way, a lot of dysfunction, like arrogance, bullyism, lack of confidence, fear of social interaction because you got abused when you were kids, are gone. You know you can handle pressure because you are trained for it. The same happens in software with the Software Craftsmanship Dojo. Developers start with ownership. This is my code. How many times I've heard that? I am responsible for it, not that many others. This is the kind of ownership drives teams and people to master the fundamentals. Because sloppy work reflects on them. And if I'm only telling people this is my code, but I'm not responsible for it, you get the tickets at 2 a.m. that will wake you up, it's not fair. Mastery, accountability, ownership, like discipline in sports, this leads to elite mindset. So that this team, they don't wait for the permission to fix the problem. They don't hide behind the process. I wasn't in wake-up call. I was sleeping comfortable between 3 pillows. They execute in order to prevent that somebody in the team will ever wake up from a severity one. And if that happens, unfortunately for some unpredictable events, everybody will help to fix it in a way that nobody gets this treatment in the future anymore. Because it's when the pressure hits that they have to stop panic and they have to perform, showing that they didn't only master the talk, but they are able also to do the work. That is the transformation. That is what happened when you have built the 1%. And these are the 6 parallels, the 6 analogies that, in my opinion, can help you to understand how the mindset in a dojo, transported in the proper way in a software organization, they can change the people and the culture. I know that there are books about the dojo. I have done a call also to discuss about this with the inventor of the dojo and the code retreats. And after the discussion with Laurent Boussavi, I'm pretty sure that in his initial idea, there was a lot of connections with the traditional judo. Traditional martial art that I suggest everyone else that is doing coding dojo to go and experience in order to improve their dojos. With this, I don't want to say that this is mandatory, but as I got all my martial art styles melted together to arrive to 50 plus, to being able to do what I do, this is, for me, an added value that opens your horizons and your mind to something that can surprisingly improve what you are doing in a way that will let you speechless. Because it's unexpected when you add to your recipe that you are doing in a good way some ingredients to have the wow effect. Why I'm telling you about this? Because a lot of organizations, as we understood from the Rome Western topology model, they are pathological or bureaucratic. Surely they are hostile environment. And in this environment, it's not that easy to go there and change the culture. And so, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What if your organization is a total disaster? What if your leadership doesn't care about craftsmanship at all? What if you are surrounded by chaos, bureaucracy, and mediocrity is the normality? What if your board doesn't care about nothing else than money? Are you screwed? No. You have options. Here's the good news. You don't need executive buy-in to start building elite teams. You just need a small group willing to do that, to train. I've trained martial arts in hostile environments. As I told you, kids from broken homes, abusive situation, neighborhoods where violence, drug, prostitution was the normal, tough environment. The gym was their sanctuary. And for this, that they are doing what I was doing in the past, the gym is still the sanctuary of these poor kids. And over time, the discipline they learn in the dojo changed how they handle the chaos outside. And in Italy, I have perfect examples of people that they start to do judo, and then they went in very tough places, rule in the old days, still from the terrorism of the mafia, and they have changed the surrounding and the neighbors only with one simple dojo. They don't fix their environment. They transcended it. They've changed the culture of all the people around the dojo. Only because the new kiddos, they were going in the gym so that they were prevented to go on the street to become the new criminal. Same things happen in software team. You can't fix a dysfunctional organization overnight. Unfortunately, I don't have the magic road. I cannot do that. Even Gandalf probably cannot do that. But what you can is building on small steps. Building small elite teams that moving from white belt to black, they will become the agent of change. A team that practices extreme programming and test-driven development in the proper way, so that after that the board has pushed the management to embrace AI to improve the profitability of the organization, these people that they know how to develop in the proper way, they can use AI to enhance all the goodness that they have and becoming even better. To have even more time to finally go and teach all the others about which kind of performance they can reach. They can socially cooperate daily with all the others in a way that they will be absolutely the driver to change everything. And that is what happens. The team, they go in the dojo, they start to improve their ability, they start to practice TDD properly, they start to review the codes in a relentless way, they hold the accountability, and over time, their delivery will become faster, with higher quality, cleaner, more reliable, with less tickets. Nobody will get finally pissed because the product doesn't work. The support won't be flooded of tickets every deployment they are doing. And suddenly, the organization will start to realize that. We start to realize that this remote team that nobody care about because it was the worst in the organization, they are becoming a role model. And everybody will start to ask how they did it. How can I replicate this in my own team? And this is how culture spreads bottom up. This is what is called a grassroots approach for community of practice. Is a very powerful tool that in the old days have shown on social studies how culture of entire countries, they can be rewired. You don't need permission to be excellent. You don't need permission to stop the racism. You just need the discipline to be there and continue to grind until the friction will create the diamonds. The pressure will forge the champion, the hero that will change culture. And an hostile environment is not an excuse, it's an opportunity. That is the paradox. The teams that thrive in chaos are the ones built in the dojo, are the ones built in top of a community of practice, are the ones that can be a modern Martin Luther King transformation. Now, I guess we've done a lot of philosophy. I've talked for over 1 hour. So, I guess it's time to salute you. And in the next episode, we will talk about data. How we can correlate all this philosophical discussion to introduce the behavioral engineering aspect and concept in practice. Guys, thank you for being here, and see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.